Hello and welcome to Bridget's Garden. Today's video is in response to a request actually from one of the subscribers called Bernier1, I think that's how you pronounce it, so hopefully that's right, and this is for you. You asked for a video about propagation, so we're going to look at propagation and also seed saving today. So let's go into the polytunnel and see what's in there. Right, so here we are in the polytunnel, and I've let some things go to seed in here. Just wanted to mention that seed save, the reason I seed save is it just makes you a little bit more resilient. If you want to be more self-reliant and more self-sufficient, if you're relying on buying seeds to do that, you're not really that self-reliant. So if we save our own seeds, that just gives us that extra little bit of resiliency. So if we can't get a hold of seeds, if there's a shortage like there was earlier this year, then we know that we're all right, we've got seeds. So the seeds sort of present themselves in different ways, and as you can see, this is wild lettuce and the seeds are just right there. They just like fall off into my hand right there, really easy, and that's kind of the easiest seeds to save. And I can let this just go to seed and let the seeds fall wherever they drop, and then that will self-seed, that will grow again itself without me having to do anything. If I want to put it in a particular place, then I need to save the seeds and sow them where I want them, but I don't mind. This can kind of go a bit wild, and then if it's in the way, I just pull up the plants if they're in a place where I don't want them to be. So another really easy seed to save is calendula, so I'll show you some of that next. So this is a calendula flower that I've just picked, and these are some of the flower heads that have gone over, and as the flower dies back, these little seed heads just present themselves, and these are actually seeds. So again, I can just let them drop and fall to the ground and self-seed, or I can pick them and put them wherever I want them, and that's just another really easy seed to collect. It's just right there, and you just pick it up and collect it, put it into a seed packet, or let it fall on the ground. Another plant that is similar to that is fennel. This fennel here, again, when these flowers die back, the seeds will just be right there, and you can just pick them off or let them fall, whichever. And then slightly more, it's not really much more work, but a different way that the seeds present themselves is in capsules. And if you want to look here at this poppy head, this is a seed capsule effectively, so the petals fall off, you can see in there that there's a similar tip, and then the bottom underneath the tip just swells and swells until it's full of seeds, and then it will eventually dry out and open up at the top, and there'll be little holes, and I can just shake them out. And again, that can self-seed, you can leave that where it is and the seeds will just fall, or you can just shake them out and collect them and put them in a paper bag or a glass jar once they're dried and keep them that way. This is some land cress, and after the flowers dried back, it created these little pods, capsules if you like, and then they'll dry out like these, and when they're very dry they'll split open and the seeds will fall out, or again you can come and get them when it's dried out and collect the seeds from inside. Right, this is a radish that I've let go to seed, and as you can see, this has formed little capsules as well, very similar to the land cress, and again these will just dry out, and these tend to open and kind of explode if you don't catch them quick enough, so once they're kind of quite plump like that, you can take them off and let them dry indoors. But it's the same kind of principle with the I think a slug's eaten that one. The slugs must like radish seeds. You can actually eat these, they're quite spicy. You can put them on your salads if you want to, the little seed pods, and I've got like hundreds, so maybe we might do that as well. And this is all from one plant, so you don't need to, it doesn't need to take up a huge amount of space. We'll have a look at a couple of other examples as well. Okay, here we are with the foxglove, and as you can see they've got capsules as well, and they will dry off, and there'll be seeds in there too. And this is Aquilegia, Granny's bonnet, columbine, whatever you want to call it. And again, you'll see that there's a capsule here, and these have started to dry, and you can actually see the seeds inside them. So I can just shake those. I could just take that off and open it out, and I have seeds. There we go. Got a bit of wind, I'm sorry, hopefully you can hear me okay. So these are chive flowers, and as you can see, this is the seeds there are just embedded in the flower head and will just fall out like that pretty easily. And leek and onion seeds are very similar, but you might have to rub the head a little harder to get the seeds off for those. But yeah, they're really easy to collect as well. Really good beginner one, because they just fall out, and there's loads. So the other types of seeds that you can get is where the seeds are actually inside the fruit, so such as with tomatoes. I haven't got any ripe ones because we're only sort of mid-July, but inside of the tomato, as I'm sure you will have seen if you've eaten tomatoes, are seeds, and you can just scoop them out of the inside, let them dry, and then plant them. To get the best seeds, you need to leave the tomatoes on there until they are very ripe, in fact getting towards overripe really, when they've gone all nice and squishy. That's when you get the best seeds. So just at the end of the season you can leave some of the tomatoes on and save the seeds from them. And the same thing applies to things like peppers, courgettes, cucumbers, and other fruits as well that you get pips in, so things like lemons and apples. You can save the seeds from those too, although obviously if you're looking at trees they take a little longer to produce anything. Your annual seeds are a bit more quick to appear. Okay, so I think we've more or less covered seed saving. Other sort of things that you can save seeds from are your peas and beans, and they work the same as capsules. You wait until the pod has completely dried and then take out your dried pea or bean and you can plant that. Things like garlic has cloves, so you can save a bulb of your garlic, your best bulb, and plant those individual cloves again next year like you would if you bought seed garlic bulb from the shops. You can do the same thing. And the same with potatoes. Seed potatoes are just potatoes from the plant that have been collected and saved until the following year, and you can do that with your own plants. You don't need to buy specific seed potatoes. They are not a special type of potato, they're just a normal potato. Okay, so now we'll take a little look at propagating, which is another way of reproducing your plants. So we're here next to my fig tree, and one of the ways of propagating is a technique called layering. And what that means is that you take a branch, and the fig tree lends itself really well to this because it does sprawl quite easily. Other things that are good for this are gooseberries. You can do it with herbs as well, like this thyme that's here. And what you effectively do is see that there's a... We'll go in a second and you can have a look, but you put the branch on the ground and then peg it down with a rock or a piece of wire or something like that. Put some soil over the piece that's touching the ground and it will actually send roots down, and then you can cut that piece off and you've got a new tree. So we'll have a look a bit closer into the fig tree and you can see what I mean. Okay, so you can see here that this little branch here is pegged down by this rock, and I've covered it with soil, and it will eventually, probably next year, give it a full season, that will be rooted enough and I can cut it off from the mother plant, which is up here. And then it'll be its own little plant, and I can plant that, move it somewhere else. Okay, we're back with the thyme. So I moved this yesterday, put it in this pot, and a little piece just broke off, and as you can see, this is the piece, and I've literally just put it in the ground. I've just stripped off the lower leaves and then just put it in the ground, and that is another way of propagating. Take a little cutting, so you just pinch a little bit off where it meets another, let's see a good one, so right at the bottom where it meets the main stalk, just pinch it off, and then just make a little hole, put it in, put your soil around, and most of the time that will take, not 100%, but a lot of the time it will. Another way of doing that is to put the cutting in some water and wait for it to send out roots, and then you can pot it up in some soil once it's got some roots going. And lots of herbs are really good for this. Things like mint and sage will take quite readily, lemon balm. So that's another way, and this kind of propagation is better for your perennials rather than seed saving, because you get a more mature plant more quickly. If you were to save the seeds from this thyme, it would just take much longer than the propagating. So these are some other cuttings that I took last year. These are cuttings from a blackcurrant bush. And what I tend to do is, when I'm pruning back my blackcurrant bush or red currant and gooseberries, I take the sticks basically and stick them in a pot, as you can see. And this one has taken, this one's from last year, and it's actually got berries on it already this year, and that will grow into a full plant. And most of my currant bushes that I have around the garden have come from one mother plant. And it's an easy way to spread your produce around and get some free plants, which is always good, isn't it? Free plants. Okay, so here I am in the strawberry patch, and I've got some nice strawberries coming here, and as you can see, these strawberries have started to send out runners, and these are basically clones of the mother plant. And what you can do with these is, you can, if they're close by somewhere, if you want to extend your strawberry patch, as I'm doing here, what I've done is I've just encouraged these to root into the soil right there, and I put a little rock on top of the runner, and it's sending out little roots now. And then once those roots have established, I can cut off that stalk to the mother plant, and it'll be its own individual plant. And I could, if I wanted to, move that somewhere else. You can see that they often send out more than one, and some people say that you should only let the first runner root and then cut off the rest, and that makes a stronger plant. Now I don't always do that. I can't say I've noticed a difference, but I haven't done any trials to check, so I'm a bit of a see what happens gardener, so I just see what happens. But if you wanted to try and make sure that this plant was nice and strong and got all of the goodness from the mother plant, you could cut that off and just let that one continue growing, and then that one can go in the compost, because we don't waste anything in the garden. And Gwyn's come to see us. Hello, Gwyn. So here you see the pea pods, which I'm sure you will have seen, and what we do is we just leave these to get fat on the plant, and they'll go brown and papery on the plant, and then you can take them off. Now you need to remember to wait until you've gathered all of your peas, because if you let the first ones go all dry and papery, then the plant will stop producing, because that's its purpose, to reproduce. It wants to create seed to continue, and if you let it go to seed, that's its job done. So if you want to eat the peas, you keep cutting your peas until there's just a few left, and then leave the last few on your plant to turn into seed peas for next year. So now we're here in, that's the wild lettuce, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the raspberries. So this is the raspberry patch, and when I first arrived I maybe had 6, maybe 8 raspberry plants, and as you can see there are far more than that here now. And raspberries are another one, like strawberries, that basically propagate themselves, and they send runners under the ground and then they'll pop up a new shoot. So you need to make sure, if you've got raspberries, that they are where you want them to be and they're all right to spread where they are, because they can get a bit out of hand, but you can just pull them up if they're in the wrong place. And as you can see, I've got them right along the border. Now if your neighbour doesn't want free raspberries, you need to bear that in mind. Luckily our neighbour's quite happy to have free raspberries, and if you take a peek over the fence you might see that there's raspberries popping up in their garden as well. So that's a no work method of propagating raspberries. They just come by themselves, and you can of course dig them up and move them if you want to move them to another part of the garden. And you can save the seeds as well, like any other fruit, apart from strawberries actually. The seeds will be inside, and each of those little tiny berries has a seed inside, so you can grow them from seed as well. Okay. Okay, we're going to continue the theme of self-propagation here, and these are some bunching onions. So these bunching onions, as the name suggests, form little bunches, and you can see that happening here, that's splitting into 2 onions, and it will split again and again and again, and you end up with a little clump of onions, so that you can take what you need and then replant a couple and they'll bunch again, so you have a never-ending supply of onions. And that works similarly to shallots. With shallots, because they do die back, I harvest the shallots and then save some for the following year and then plant them again, much like the potatoes. So that's that type of onion. And then we have another type of onion which is called an Egyptian walking onion, and this is one of them. So again, this actually sends up a little flower head almost, which has there's a little slug on there. Well, squish the slug. It has a little clump of baby onions there, and then it just drops down to the ground and roots itself, and you can see actually it's sending up new little shoots to make new onions, and that'll be a new little clump of onions. And again, you can do the same thing, harvest those like spring onions and then leave some in. You can as well take that off and put it somewhere else if you don't want it to stay in the same place, and that's quite easy. Okay, the last thing I will talk about, kind of propagation, is growing from scraps. And basically that means you can use it with shop bought food, or you can use it with plants from the garden. And effectively the bit that you would normally throw away, you save, and it will grow a new plant. So if we turn around, we can have a look at some celery behind us, and that came from a shop bought celery. And once I'd used the celery, I saved the inner part, the bottom, put it in some water and let it root, and then it grew a new celery plant, and I just allowed that to grow to go to seed, and then new plants grew from the seed. So a never-ending supply of celery from one shot bought celery. So that's another thing you can do. And then we've got some onions as well over there, which I'll show you too. And these are the celery plants that just appeared from last year's seeds. I had one of the plants in the polytunnel here, and lots of seeds fell, and as you can see we've got quite a few little plants here growing. That one's probably ready to start harvesting from even. Free celery! Okay, and these are some onions that I grew from scraps. I just cut the bottom off. I shall harvest this one and show you. You might be able to see the original. So I just cut this bottom off here, and it sent out a new shoot to make a new onion plant. Because it's in a little trough, it's not got very big, but potentially it could get as big as a normal sized onion. If it was from a normal sized onion. And you can do that with other things as well, like did it with celery. You can do it with anything that roots from the bottom and sends up a plant. So even things like lettuce and cabbages, things like that, you can try putting those roots in and growing a new plant. Free food, what's not to like? Okay, here's a little strawberry that you can see I'm rooting into a pot, because this is from strawberries that are in a little tray, and there's no more room in there for any more strawberries. And as you can see, we are totally overgrown here with other plants. So I've just put a little pot there, and I put it in there, just pressed it into the compost. And once that has rooted, I can cut it off from the mother plants, and you can tell it's rooted by just giving it a little tug, and it doesn't come out. So you can see that's not rooted yet, because I only put it there yesterday. So that will take a few days, and then it will root quite easily. If it keeps popping out, you can just again put a little stone over it, or peg it down with a little bit of wire to keep it in there. Oops, pop it back in. There we go. Okay, that's it for me from today. I hope you've got some ideas there. There was lots of different options for saving seeds, propagating, and getting free plants, free food, and helping to keep you resilient and self-reliant in these very uncertain times that we're in at the moment. So if you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. It'll be really good to hear from you. I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.